All right, well, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming out for our kickoff meeting for the Middletown Community Campus Brownfield Opportunity Area study. My name is Kate Stryker. I am the consultant that is project managing this project that you're here to learn about today. So our agenda for this evening is first we're going to hear from the mayor with just a welcome, and then I will just sort of describe who the project team is for this project, including our steering committee. And then I'm going to review the Department of State grant known as the Brownfield Opportunity Area program. I'm going to go over the planning process and the timeline, and then we will have time at the end for questions. Today we are offering Spanish language interpretation services. That's services being provided by Rocio Sharok.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Rocío. Si alguien necesita traductora, si puede alzar la mano. No. Gracias.
Okay, I'm going to introduce the mayor.
Well, thank you, Kate, and welcome everyone to downtown Middletown. I'd also like to recognize our assemblyperson, our assemblywoman, Paula Kay. She's recently took office here in January and has been getting deeply involved in this project already. So thank you for being here, along with County Legislator Janet Sutherland, who represents a portion of the city of Middletown. And we also have Alderman Jerry Kleiner here, along with Alderman Paul Johnson. But, this is Middletown's 5 square miles. We have 30,000 plus people. We have the highest population in the county of the 3 cities. And so we have pretty densely populated. This project is focusing on about a 250-acre piece of property in the city of Middletown. It was neglected for many, many years by the state of New York, and under Governor Hochul has been revitalized to a point where we're now at a certain stage where we can take another step on the revitalization of this property. In order to do that, we need to get community input from all the stakeholders in and around the property. We've also expanded the BOA zone to include part of Monhegan Avenue. So we want to hear from our residents and from all stakeholders about what they can envision this campus looking like. This is the last large piece of developable property within the city, and we're excited about the opportunities that it presents. We're excited about what's happening up there now. I see Dr. Zhao in the back from Fay Tian College. He is an important part of the development of that campus now, but there's a lot more potential on the campus, and part of that potential is the expansion of Fay Tian College and other opportunities. So the city has also acquired about 34 acres of property from the state of New York for $1. That includes the power plant, Tuckerman Hall, Kleiner, some of the smaller buildings, some of the garages, the 54 building. So part of this plan is going to be alternate uses for those buildings and those structures on the property. We're doing some now, but we got more to do, and we need community input. So thank you all for being here. Kate, thank you, Pattern, for the direction and the assistance on the grant, or more than the assistance. I think it was you guys wrote the grant. So we're excited about the opportunities that are coming forward for us, and welcome to Middletown. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor DeStefano. So as far as this planning team for this project, we're obviously working with the city primarily, with the mayor, with the council president, Miguel Rodriguez, with Maria Bruni, the director of economic and community development, and Caitlin McNamara, the assistant director in the Office of Economic and Community Development. We also are working with our grant manager from the Department of State, Susan Lanfried, who's here this evening. And then our consulting team is, we are a nonprofit called Hudson Valley Pattern for Progress. We've been in the Hudson Valley for 60 years. This year, actually, is our 60-year anniversary. We're a regional planning, policy, advocacy, and educational organization. And our team includes Adam Bosch, our president and CEO, Elka Gottfried, Eric Pearson, I'm Kate Stryker, Robin DeGroat, and Yasmin Aziz. And for this project, we are also very grateful for the work of our steering committee, who's already been meeting on a monthly basis. The committee's role on this project is to be the sort of truth on the ground. The committee was selected to include people who represent different sub-communities and interests in Middletown and near the campus. They are advising us in our planning process. They're asked to show up to events to sort of help get the word out about events, and to review any, as we sort of hit milestones in the project, they will sort of be giving us feedback. And in addition to that, they're just very knowledgeable people about the site. I want to just let everyone here know that there is a project website. I don't know how you found out a bit about the meeting tonight, but if you go to our project website, you can sign up to be on the email list. If you signed up tonight on the sign-in sheet, you will also be on the email list. We will be sending out notifications for the project through this email list, and we will also be posting any information and materials related to the project on this website. And I will put this up again at the end if you didn't get it. So as the mayor described, this project is really focused on the Middletown Community Campus, which is the former Middletown Psychiatric Center. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this site. It's now home to Phaeton College and other public, nonprofit, and private institutions and businesses. And as the mayor said, it's 223 acres. We expanded the area, and I'm going to show in a few slides from now a little bit more about why we chose to do that. So before I describe the grant and our planning process, I want to see a hand, just if anyone wants to raise their hand if they know what a brownfield is. Okay, so good thing I'm here to explain it. So a brownfield, the sort of broad definition is that it's land that is known or suspected to have environmental contamination. And the reason the land is contaminated is either because of a current or past use of that land. Typically, there was a factory there was a gas station, a power plant, a dry cleaners, some other use. And as you can imagine, there's many negative impacts of brownfields. So they can pose environmental hazards for the community. They can pose community health risks if there are environmental hazards. The land remains vacant or underutilized, oftentimes for decades. I think we've all seen these sites around where it's sort of this fenced off area, and you're like, what is that? Why is it there? Will it ever be anything else? It can contribute to feelings of unsafety. It sort of discourages people from investing in the area. And it's not really serving a purpose in the community. It's usually just remaining vacant and not being utilized when in fact there may be needs in the community. The Department of State, who is the granting organization for this project, defines a brownfield based on the Environmental Conservation Law. A brownfield site or site shall mean any real property where a contaminant is present at levels exceeding the soil cleanup objectives or other health-based standards, criteria, or standards adopted by the New York State DEC based on the reasonably anticipated use of the property. So to break that down a little bit, in order to redevelop sites, they need to be clean enough that they are safe for people to use. And the level of cleanup really depends on what that site's going to be used for. So if you're just going to put a parking lot on it, you don't necessarily need to clean off all the soil if you're going to cover it entirely. But if you're going to have children playing in the soil, you're going to need to sort of clean out all of that soil. So that's what when it's talking about the anticipated use of the property, that really determines to what extent the site needs to be remediated. And then the second part of this definition, brownfields are properties where expansion, redevelopment, or use may be complicated by the presence or potential presence of hazardous substance, pollutant, or contaminant. Within a BOA, and a BOA, this acronym I'm going to give you about 100 times tonight, stands for Brownfield Opportunity Area. I'm going to explain that in a minute. Within a BOA nomination or plan, the term brownfield site as defined by Section 27-1405, will be qualified by using suspected to include properties where evidence of contamination above threshold levels has not been confirmed. Okay, so as I mentioned a couple slides back, there's a lot of negative effects that brownfields can have in a community. And brownfields are typically concentrated in areas that tend to have lower incomes, have sort of faced historical injustices of all sorts, including potentially environmental contamination. And they just remain vacant. They're sort of problems in those communities. So in response to that challenge, and the fact that these are very expensive to remediate, they can cost millions of dollars to clean up the site, that's a huge barrier to redeveloping those sites. The state developed what's called the Brownfield Opportunity Area program. And this is assistance for the development of a community-based plan to basically develop a vision for the area or the neighborhood. And that vision is really based on identified needs in the community, what the community wants to see. And then using that vision, you select sites in the area. It could be 8 sites, it could be 20 sites, in some cases it's 50 sites, just depending on the size of the area, and to really work with the community on developing plans for how to bring those sites back to life in a way that's going to benefit the community. The grant also provides assistance for communities to identify site redevelopment opportunities and enhancements consistent with the community vision, which is what I was just describing. It also provides an opportunity to develop action, policy, or investment recommendations for the area or neighborhood. And this all results in what's known as a Brownfield Opportunity Area. So a Brownfield Opportunity Area is a set geography that has this state designation, which opens it up to a whole host of benefits. The benefits of the planning process and designation. So in summary, at the top in the yellow boxes, BOA planning, brownfield cleanup, and redevelopment really should lead to social, environmental, and economic benefits for the community. And just some details about how that works. So primarily, the cleanup and environmental contamination in the neighborhood and a reduction of public health risks. Redevelopment can also lead to the creation of new community assets. So it could lead to new park space, new retail space. It really, again, depends on what the community decides that they want. It also opens up developers to receive potential tax credits to offset the cost of remediation. And this is through the DEC's Brownfield Cleanup Program. Those tax credits, however, are only attainable. You can only access those credits if the development is in line with that community vision. So the community really has a lever there on the kind of development they see, with control of whether or not the community or the developer receives those tax credits. Designation of a BOA demonstrates community support for certain development, which can lead to expediency and reduced investment risk. So when a developer comes in and they want to do a project in a community, oftentimes if they face community opposition, that can really raise their costs, their sort of pre-development costs. And it can be hard to attract developers to communities to come in and make investments in communities if they're afraid that they're going to face those risks. Because this is a very extensive planning process where we're really working with the community to understand what the community wants and needs and putting that together in a report, if the developers align their projects to whatever it is that the community expresses, then there's really no reason to oppose those developments because, again, those developments should be in line with what the community is expressing that they want. And then I'll just finally add, one of my sort of personal favorite parts of this program is it's really an opportunity for community building. I'll just point to the fact that we're all here this evening. It's an opportunity for people to kind of come together and get engaged in their community in a way that maybe they haven't. I'm managing a similar program in Kingston, and it's just been an incredible opportunity to bring people working in the community together to get excited about a project, to kind of understand the work that individuals are doing in the community. And I think that has a lasting benefit beyond just this planning project. So as I mentioned, there's all these benefits, and then there's additional benefits that become available once the area is designated as a Brownfield Opportunity Area, as a BOA. So the state also offers public investment for doing analysis plans and studies in the BOA that could be on environmental, housing, and economic conditions, building conditions, infrastructure, renewable energy. There's also, professional services to do development strategies, zoning and regulatory updates, legal and financial services, and public outreach. And then another big benefit of being in a BOA designated area is, so if a site is suspected to be contaminated, there's different phases of assessing that contamination. Before you sort of go in and do the cleanup, you want to make sure that there's actually contamination there because it's going to be expensive. Before you even sort of test the soil, you do what's called a phase 1, where you look at the current use of the site and the historical use of the site, and you say, okay, based on this information, having conversations with property owners, having conversations with neighbors, you kind of, and just sort of a visual survey of the site, you get a sense whether or not contamination there is likely or not. The next environmental assessment is called a phase 2. And a phase 2 is where you go in and you're doing testing of the ground soil, you're testing the water, and that is a costly process. And so you think about these sites, they're sitting there empty. The property owners may or may not want to spend the money to do those phase 2s. It sort of serves as that testing, and the cost of that testing can be a barrier to sort of moving those sites into production. Or into redevelopment. So the state offers resources to do those phase 2 site assessments. So I have just a couple case studies to give you a little bit clearer picture of the benefits of BOAs. First, I'll say there's over 70 designated BOAs in New York State. This one is in Oswego County, which is up on the southern part of Lake Ontario. And former industrial area, a huge area. They were designated as a BOA in 2015, and they identified 45 sites, 49, including brownfields, vacant, underutilized sites. And through their community engagement and planning process, they decided that the uses that they really wanted to attract to their BOA included energy-related businesses, including alternative energy companies, warehousing, distribution, trade-related businesses, accommodation and restaurants, healthcare, water-based activities, and high-end housing. So that was sort of what they said, this is what we want to bring in. And then this is just looking at one of those 49 sites. The picture on the upper right is the site before. You can see it's sort of an industrial-looking space. It was a contaminated parcel, and it went through the Brownfield cleanup program, and they got out of the redevelopment a bunch of new housing, including townhouses, affordable housing, and 11 of the units were made accessible, and this was all done as LEED certified. So you can see the sort of benefit that this brought for the community. And again, this was just one of the sites in their BOA. This example in Rome, New York, which at one point was called Copper City because it was where I think like 25% of American copper was made or processed. So again, huge area, lots of contamination. And after their BOA designation, I show this example because they were really able to use the BOA designation to sort of springboard or catalyze a ton of more investment into this neighborhood. I think there was about 500 acres in downtown Rome that were in this area, and many sites that were vacant, contaminated, underutilized. And so some of the money that they brought in was used to demolish and do site preparation. You can see by the list there, they got money from National Grid, US EPA, some community development block grant, the city. They also got a significant grant from the New York State Department of Transportation to do street improvements. And they also got a large amount from the New York State Homes and Community Renewal to do affordable housing. So again, this funding, it may have happened without the BOA, but you can see that like once the BOA designation happens, it really sort of opens these communities up to receive a lot of resources. So our planning process for this Middletown Community Campus is a 3-phased process. Right now we're in the first phase, and this is anticipated to go through July of this summer. And what we're doing right now is we're announcing the project to the public, and we're beginning to meet with our steering committee, but we're also beginning what we call our existing conditions analysis. And what that is where we're really trying to understand all aspects of the site, and I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. We're working with the community, with stakeholders to develop a vision for the campus, and we're going through and we're saying which sites on this campus do we really want to focus our attention on. The next phase is anticipated to go from July through October, and that's where we're really, after we've selected those sites and we have our vision clearly stated, we will be working with the community to develop concept plans for those sites. If the community feels like they want to make this project also include recommendations for the campus beyond those sites, that's sort of an opportunity to do that as well. Oftentimes the BOA plans are not just about the sites, they're also sort of a master plan for the neighborhood or the area. So there's an opportunity to kind of include input on that as well. This all gets packaged together from phase 1 and phase 2 into a draft plan. In October or November, sometime in next fall, we will be presenting that to the public again for feedback. We basically say, this is what we heard you say, this is how we understood it, these are the recommendations that we developed with community input, did we get it right? And we sort of take the public input, go back and make revisions, and then we submit all of that to the state for designation. And again, that's for designating the area as an official Brownfield Opportunity Area. So a little bit more detail on that. The data collection, we're looking at economic, demographic, and housing data. That's for the city at large. There's not a lot of, in some BOAs, you can get that information for the actual area, but because it's the campus, there's not so much. So we'll probably be just the surrounding area, the surrounding census tracts. We're looking at land use, ownership patterns, and zoning, transportation systems, infrastructure, current and future hazards, building inventory. We look at parks and open space, natural resources, and environmental features. We do a market analysis, and that's really key because if we're going to propose anything on the campus, we want to make sure that there's actually a market to support that. Obviously, we're looking at the brownfields and vacant sites, and we're taking qualitative input from community engagement. So our community engagement process involves public formal meetings such as this steering committee. We're also going to be doing visioning sessions, probably on the campus, where we will invite the public in to give input, again, on just the sort of needs, on that vision, on those concept plans for specific sites. We did a walking tour with the committee. We will probably do one with the public as well. We'll be doing an extensive public survey and interviews. And again, this input is used to inform all these parts of the plan. So I've mentioned the community vision several times. What is a community vision? It's a cohesive statement for the area with a list of specific goals to be achieved relative to the community redevelopment and investment as shared and expressed by the community. This is an example of a vision from Bull's Head, which is in Rochester. It's a BOA, it's a neighborhood in Rochester, New York, called Bull's Head. And their vision statement reads, "The Bull's Head area is an attractive and prosperous neighborhood which includes opportunities for all current and future residents of all ages and income levels. Once contaminated, vacant, and blighted lands are now healthy and sustainable places where our local businesses and residents thrive. We embrace our historic and strategic location as a center of commerce and health and leverage our role as a transportation hub that connects all people and modes safely and comfortably. Our parks and open spaces play an active role in connecting our community to nature and provide recreation opportunities for our youth. Our broad inclusiveness and continuous drive to improve our neighborhood provides a safe, affordable, prosperous, and attractive place for all. This is a shorter vision statement from Sheridan Hollow, and I just want to point out, I'm not going to read it, but I'm going to point out that here they support their vision statement with goals, and that's what we will do, because the vision statement can be a little lofty and abstract, so you really want to sort of think of what's going to make that vision come true, and so that's sort of articulating with the community goals and strategies. So Mayor described the boundary a little bit, and I just want to point out where it was extended. In this slide, you can see the area that's circled red. We added the parcels on the right. The square here that you see is actually city-owned, and it's adjacent to the public housing. So we wanted to include it here because it's an opportunity to plan for what might go on that site. We also extended it out here. I don't know if you can see my arrow. No. Okay. The road that's at the edge of that body of water is actually the Heritage Trail. So part of planning for this site, we'll be thinking about connectivity to that Heritage Trail to bring potentially pedestrians and bicycles onto the campus. And then in that strip of businesses that's along Monhagan Avenue, there's a vacant commercial laundromat, which may be a brownfield, so we wanted to include that as well, because there may be an opportunity to plan for the redevelopment of that site. So I've been talking about sites and our sort of process of selecting them. There's a long list of things that we will be considering as we select sites. The first is the current use of the site. If it's a well-used site, we're not going to suggest redevelopment of it. We're really trying to focus on sites that are not doing a lot for the community and for the campus. The location, the owner willingness is key. If an owner is not willing to participate in this process, we will not focus on it. If there's a high level of contamination, it's definitely in the community's interest that we focus on it because we want to see those sites cleaned up. The development potential, so how big is the acreage, what can be built there based on existing zoning, how big of a building, also the potential to spur additional economic development or positive change in the community. We also look at existing infrastructure, utilities, and transportation systems, and any other factors that may be determined to be important by the community. So we know that Faytien is on the campus. They're a fully functioning college. They have been investing a tremendous amount of resources in the campus. I think one of the factors that will be considered will be just whether uses complement the campus, and we don't want to go against the work that they're doing there. So I mentioned in phase 2, we will be doing this concept planning for sites. So what goes into that? We'll be basically incorporating strategies to meet the community needs that will be identified through that community engagement process, including the survey, including those meetings and visioning sessions. And I don't want to say what those uses or needs are yet because we haven't actually begun that process, but typically they might include communities looking for more job opportunities or educational opportunities, retail or housing, mixed use, industrial, recreational, cultural. Maybe communities want to see investments in their infrastructure or other public amenities. The site plans themselves will include implementation strategies, including feasible next steps to advance the concepts. And sort of our work is really identifying potential partnerships and funding opportunities to make sure that these plans, once they've been written up and sort of thought up by the community, move forward. We don't want this report to die on a shelf, as they say. We want it to live on. We want these things to become real. So this is my last slide. It's just showing This is Sheridan Hollow, which is a neighborhood in Albany. It was designated as a BOA. And they really used this planning process to do more than just develop concepts for their vacant and underutilized and brownfield sites. They used it as an opportunity to create a master plan for the neighborhood. They identified mobility projects, policies and programs. They identified places where they'd like to see public realm projects such as parks. They identified those strategic sites, and they have a whole list of redevelopment projects. So again, what this plan sort of turns out to be, it can be as extensive as sort of serving as a master plan for the campus. That concludes my presentation. We are going to open it up for Q&A, but before we do, I just want to point that there's our sort of first opportunity to give your input. We have questions on the back here on those large boards with the prompts. When I think of the Middletown Community Campus, I think, and my wish for the Middletown Community Campus is, and I invite you all to go and fill out the sticky note. Again, if you want to be involved, please sign up for the email list. And you can do that here. And I'm going to open it up for questions. That was a lot. Yes, the presentation will be posted on the website. Susan, do you want to say anything? Did I get anything wrong? Probably a few things.
No, I don't think you got anything wrong at all. I think just to kind of reiterate what Kate said is like this is very much a community ground up planning process. It is not something where, we're coming and saying this is what we want. These are very much your ideas. And getting that buy-in from the community is what makes this a successful planning process. And so the redevelopment is an option, but it's not just thinking about what are the developments that are coming. It's like, what are the public amenities that maybe want to, this is a very beautifully landscaped place. It's a lot of open space. Is that something that, you all want to say? What are some of the public amenities that can be woven into this process as well?
Any other questions? If not, no worries. We can all get home safely. Oh, I see a couple in the back.
Hold on. I'll give you the mic.
At this point in your process, what is the BOA on the campus?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
What is the disturbed?
Oh, what is the brownfields?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So there was a phase 1 done of the entire campus, and I'm not going to be able to tell you offhand everything that they found, but the obvious brownfield is the power plant. And there's also a coal ash dump site, which is not an official brownfield, but it is listed with the DC, and the city is actively monitoring that site.
Okay, and so has it actually polluted the water there?
I don't think so. And I mean, the city has city water, so there's a chance. I'm not super familiar with it, to be honest. As we learn more about the sites, we will, continue to share information publicly about any contamination we learn of. Our planning process does not involve really understanding the contamination. So that's sort of a later step. We're really thinking about an area-wide study, knowing that there's probably some contamination on the site, so that when the investment comes into that neighborhood or into that campus, it really benefits the community. Because what you don't want to see happen is these tax credits exist. You don't want to see developers swoop in and get the tax credits and build something that nobody needs or wants, right? So it's really to sort of leverage private investment towards cleanup while meeting community needs.
You're concerned about drinking water? Or? Oh, because... Okay. Well, maybe for others then, the site is below our reservoir system. So the stream that runs through the community campus is an outfall of our reservoir system. So it's not flowing, whatever's there does not flow into our reservoir system. So just in case anyone had a concern about it.
Anyone else? Yeah.
And I think one thing I want to reiterate as well is like brownfield can mean it has contamination. We know it has contamination, or it has the potential for. So maybe it was at a point it was used for something, or it was adjacent to something. So it can have the potential as well, but that doesn't mean anything. And I think Kate talked about one of the potential benefits of those phase 2 environmental site assessments. That's when you really start to understand like what's actually in the soil and so forth. But the phase 1 has been done. That may be a future phase after this designation occurs.
I thought someone else had their hand up.
Thank you. So it's not a question, it's just a statement. I just want to say I want to congratulate the mayor and everybody here on the council who worked so hard to make this grant happen. And I'm really excited to see what the community has to say and all the players when they come to the table to really make this an incredible project and just continue to bring more beautiful life to the city. So thank you.
I remember as a young boy growing up in a town of 10,000 people with a university in it. And the university doubled the size of the town when school was in session. I remember that there was an incredible amount of outpouring back and forth between the university and the rest of the community. And throughout the decades before, during, and after I was there was always a very clear sense of this community is here for education and for growth and for the betterment of everyone around us, not just our little community, but the county as a whole. A question I have right now, which I think might be something that Your Honor, you've had a chance to talk with lots of people about. How does what this campus is doing fit into the larger work of helping the county and the state as a whole improve?
Well, first, years ago, Middletown's an old industrial town, old railroad industrial town. And in the 70s is when we took a turn, like many small cities, with the exodus of retail and stores and closing of factories. So we had to redefine ourselves. It took a long time to redefine ourselves, but we started to focus on arts and education. About 10 years ago, we were successful in attracting Touro Medical School to the former Horton Hospital up at on Prospect Avenue. We've worked with SUNY. Maria's also a trustee at SUNY for the expansion of their programs. But a big part of this has been the attraction of Fay-Tien College and to the city of Middletown, and the proposed expansion of Fay-Tien, or the main campus of hopefully the Northern College. So I know Dr. Zhao has been very active in working with the business community on the economic development side. And I think a mission of Fay-Tien and Northern College will be working with the economic development people in this county to provide them what they need for jobs, for fueling their businesses. I know there, for example, this whole investment chip manufacturing into the region with Micron up in Saratoga and coming down, there's opportunities in this area also for chip manufacturing and structuring programs that will feed those businesses. The IBM, the big data concept, I know there is now a program at Fay-Tien College for big data. So the medical field, where this region is a very heavy dependent on the medical colleges and medical schools but the hospitals and providing those services. So I know Dr. Zhao their mission is to meet with the business community to find out what they will need, and also to work with students to see what they want. And I think they have a very unique approach to the old institutional colleges, which are basically set in their ways maybe for the last 40 or 50 years and don't change. They have the flexibility to change very quickly. They're doing it. The city is embracing it. 2 of the buildings on the campus now that the city just was able to obtain from the state will be transferred to the college. One being a 279,000 square foot building called Tuckerman, the large building on the lower part of the property, and the old Kleiner building, which will also be transferred to the college for $1. And they will renovate similar to what they're doing now. So we have high hopes of a large expansion of the college, the outreach of the college, and we've heavily invested, not monetarily, but as a concept for this community's growth for arts, education, and also we see the other schools are also expanding. Toro now has offered an MBA program. They're bringing in a PA program, I believe. So that is our focus, medical, arts, education, and it fits right into our plan.
This is not a question either, but with going by it fits with your statement. I just want to remind people that this year, 2025, Orange County Community College, SUNY Orange, is celebrating its 75th anniversary. So they will have a whole program of events, but they have also become part of the Middletown community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello. To the same end, I think that the mayor had discussed, I've looked at that, I've lived near that property most of my life, from the time I was a little boy. And I just, I see though, aside from that, some of the open land there is gorgeous and should be retained as a beautiful part of the, I think that, without trying to be presumptuous, would complement the campus. But I've also thought of other ideas. I have spoken with some people. You mentioned a couple of them, data centers, CHIPS, the CHIPS Act. We have the Quantum Corridor running down from Albany down to Westchester. We have the CHIPS production corridor running from Syracuse up to Buffalo. And I would like to see Middletown get some of that. From our, again, it's not strictly, although it is partially education. We have a wonderful SUNY college here. We now have Northern Fetien. And I think some of the ideas that have popped through my mind for use in 1 or 2 of those would be complementary to both those institutions and also would provide employment, meaningful employment for our citizens. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So I think that's a good segue to encourage you again to leave your thoughts on the board. I will be writing and collecting those thoughts. And that will be, this is sort of the first chance to give input on any ideas you want to see at the campus. Just, share your heart, whatever you feel about the campus. If you love it, if you hate it, just let us know, because we kind of want to understand the community's relationship to that campus and what it means to you and what you'd like to see there. Anything else? Okay, great. Thank you all very much, and I look forward to seeing you at our next public meeting.